Chosen ones, welcome back. If you're hearing this message right now, don't scroll away, because this may be exactly what your spirit needed to hear today. Have you ever watched someone listen to the wrong people, believe the wrong story about you, walk away from you, and then realize much later that they made the biggest mistake of their life? They thought they were making the right decision. They trusted the voices around them. They believed the rumors, the opinions, and the lies. But now the truth is becoming impossible to ignore, and now they regret losing you. Chosen one, I want you to understand something before we go deeper into this message. You were never meant to spend your life begging someone to recognize your worth. You don't have to chase anyone who chose to misunderstand you. You don't have to defend yourself against every accusation. And you certainly don't have to return to a place where God already gave you the strength to walk away. Maybe they thought someone else was better. Maybe they listened to friends who didn't know your heart. Maybe they allowed gossip to change their perception of you. But time has a way of revealing what people tried to hide. Eventually, people discover who was genuine, who was pretending, who was loyal, and who was simply influencing them for their own reasons. And now they may be looking back, remembering your presence, your loyalty, your patience, your kindness, and the peace you brought into their life. They may finally be realizing that what they rejected was actually something rare. But listen closely, chosen one. Their regret is not your responsibility. Your assignment is not to go backward. Your assignment is to keep moving forward with God. Let them realize what they lost while you discover everything God is preparing for you. So, if you have ever been misunderstood, rejected, betrayed, or walked away from because someone listened to the wrong people, stay with me until the end, because this message may reveal why that separation happened and why losing you may have been the very thing that opened the door to your next level. There comes a moment in life when people finally realize that the voices they trusted were leading them away from the very blessing God had placed in front of them. Chosen ones, if you've ever been rejected, misunderstood, abandoned, or replaced because someone believed rumors instead of reality, this message is for you. I want you to hear this with your heart today. Stop asking why they walked away. Stop wondering why they couldn't see your value. Sometimes, God allows people to lose what they never appreciated so they can learn a lesson that words alone could never teach. They listened to the wrong people. They believed the lies. They followed the crowd. And now, after time has revealed the truth, they are living with the consequences of letting you go. You were never the problem. Their inability to recognize your worth was. Don't let temporary rejection convince you that your purpose has disappeared. The same God who separated you from those people is preparing a future that does not require their approval. While they were busy judging you, heaven was busy protecting you. While they were listening to gossip, God was writing a greater testimony for your life. Some doors closed because they were never meant to lead you into your destiny. Every painful goodbye was creating room for the people who will recognize your value without needing an explanation. That is why you must never chase those who willingly walked away. If they believed strangers instead of your character, they made their decision. Your responsibility is not to convince them. Your responsibility is to continue walking in the direction God has called you. Many people only recognize loyalty after they experience betrayal. They only appreciate honesty after being surrounded by deception. They only miss peace after living in chaos. That is exactly what happens when someone lets a chosen one go. At first, they feel confident because everyone around them is telling them they made the right choice. The crowd applauds their decision. Their friends validate their pride. Their ego grows stronger. But time has a remarkable way of exposing what emotions try to hide. Slowly, the people they trusted begin revealing their true intentions. The same individuals who encouraged them to leave you are nowhere to be found when life becomes difficult. The advice that once sounded wise now feels empty. The relationships they thought were better become exhausting. Suddenly they remember the peace you brought into their life. They remember your patience, your kindness, your prayers, your honesty, your loyalty, and the quiet strength you carried every single day. Regret doesn't arrive overnight. It grows little by little until it becomes impossible to ignore. That's why some people spend years trying to reconnect with someone they once took for granted. But here's what you must understand. God doesn't always restore old relationships. Sometimes He simply allows people to remember what they lost so they can learn the value of respecting His blessings. Their regret is not your assignment. Their realization is not your responsibility. You don't have to return to every place God delivered you from. Some chapters are meant to teach lessons, not to be repeated. Chosen ones, while they are looking backward with regret, you must keep moving forward with faith. Never allow someone else's delayed realization to interrupt the new season God is creating for your life. There is a dangerous temptation to reopen closed doors because hearing "I'm sorry" feels satisfying. But not every apology deserves access. Not every person who regrets losing you is prepared to value you now. Some miss the benefits you brought, not the person you truly are. Discernment is one of the greatest gifts God gives His chosen people. Ask yourself this question: have they truly changed, or have their circumstances simply changed? There is a difference. Transformation produces humility. Desperation produces temporary emotion. Don't confuse the two. God removed you from certain environments because your future could not survive there. You were carrying purpose while others were carrying opinions. You were building character while others were building gossip. You were praying while others were plotting. The separation felt painful because your heart was genuine. But now you can see that what looked like rejection was actually divine protection. Every tear you cried was watering the soil where your next blessing would grow. Every lonely night strengthened your dependence on God instead of people. Every disappointment became another reminder that your identity cannot be determined by human acceptance. You belong to the one who created you, not to the opinions of those who misunderstood you. So today, I want every chosen one listening to this message to make a decision. Refuse to carry bitterness into your future. Let them learn their lesson without allowing their mistakes to become your emotional prison. Forgive, but don't forget the wisdom God taught you. Love, but don't abandon discernment. Stay humble, but never shrink your value to make others comfortable. The people who are meant to stay will never need to be convinced to honor your presence. The people God has assigned to your destiny will recognize your spirit without being manipulated by the voices of the crowd. Keep building your life. Keep walking with integrity. Keep choosing peace over revenge and purpose over popularity. The greatest response to those who lost you is not proving them wrong. The greatest response is becoming everything God created you to be. One day they may see your success, your peace, your joy, and the favor resting on your life. They may finally understand that the person they walked away from was the very blessing they had been praying for all along. But by then, you will have grown into someone who no longer seeks validation from those who once doubted you. Your confidence will come from God, your strength will come from God, your peace will come from God, and your future will be guided by God alone. So lift your head, chosen one. Stop mourning what left your life. Celebrate what God is bringing into it. The wrong people had their chance, but your destiny was never dependent on their opinion. They listened to the wrong voices, and now they carry regret. You listened to God's voice, and now you carry purpose. Keep moving forward because the best chapters of your story have not been written yet, and the God who never abandoned you is about to lead you into a season where your value will never again be questioned. There is something powerful about the moment when people finally realize they were listening to the wrong voices. Chosen one, maybe you have lived through a season where someone looked at you through the eyes of other people instead of seeing you for who you really were. They heard stories about you, accepted opinions about you, believed accusations, and allowed someone else's perspective to become their reality. Instead of asking you what happened, they judged you. Instead of giving you the benefit of the doubt, They believed the people who were speaking behind your back. And perhaps the most painful part was knowing that you could have explained everything, but their minds were already made up. You could feel the distance growing. You could sense their attitude changing. The warmth disappeared. The communication became cold. The respect started fading. And you were left wondering, how could they believe that about me when they know my heart? But chosen one, sometimes people don't reject you because of what they personally discovered about you. Sometimes they reject you because they allowed someone else to create an image of you in their mind. They weren't responding to the real you. They were responding to a story someone else told them about you. And I want you to understand something today. You don't have to spend your entire life fighting every lie spoken about you. You don't have to chase every rumor. You don't have to stand in front of everyone and prove that you are innocent. There will be moments when your silence will speak louder than your defense. There will be seasons when God Himself will reveal what you could never explain. You may have wanted the truth to come out immediately, but God doesn't always operate according to your timeline. Sometimes He allows time to become the witness. He allows circumstances to expose motives. He allows people to experience the consequences of the choices they made. And eventually, what was hidden begins to surface. The person who believed the wrong people starts noticing inconsistencies. They begin remembering things that didn't make sense. They start comparing what they were told with what they are actually seeing. And suddenly, the picture begins to change. Maybe they were told that you were difficult, but then they met people who experienced your kindness. Maybe they were told you were selfish, but then they witnessed your generosity. Maybe they were told you couldn't be trusted, but then they discovered that the people who accused you were the ones constantly creating drama. Maybe they were told you were the problem, but after you left, the same problems followed them. That's when realization begins. They start understanding that the common denominator wasn't you. They begin recognizing that someone had an agenda. Someone wanted them to see you differently. Someone didn't want them to appreciate your presence. Someone benefited from keeping you misunderstood. And now the truth is becoming impossible to ignore. Chosen one, don't underestimate what happens when the truth finally catches up with a lie. A lie can travel quickly, but it cannot control reality forever. People can manipulate conversations. They can edit stories. They can leave out important details. They can present themselves as the victim while making you look like the villain. But eventually, character reveals itself. Patterns reveal themselves. Actions reveal themselves. A person can pretend for a while, but they cannot maintain a false image forever. And that is why you must resist the temptation to become obsessed with exposing people. Let God handle what you cannot control. You don't need to become what hurt you just because someone misunderstood you. You don't need revenge to prove that you were right. You don't need to destroy someone's reputation because they tried to damage yours. Keep your hands clean. Keep your heart guarded. Keep walking. There may have been a time when you desperately wanted them to understand. You wanted to sit down and explain every detail. You wanted to show them evidence. You wanted to make them see what you saw. You wanted them to recognize that you weren't the person they had been told you were. But there comes a point when you have to release that desire. Because if someone is committed to misunderstanding you, no explanation will ever be enough. You could tell them the truth 10 different ways, and they could still choose the version that makes you look guilty. That is not your burden to carry. Your worth does not decrease because someone refuses to recognize it. Your character does not change because someone tells a false story about you. And your purpose does not disappear because somebody decided to walk away. In fact, sometimes God allows people to believe the wrong story because He is separating you from an environment where you were never going to be fully appreciated. Think about that. What if their misunderstanding became your protection? What if their rejection prevented you from staying attached to people who would have eventually drained your spirit? What if their decision to listen to others was the very thing God used to create distance between you and something that was never aligned with your future? At the time, it may have felt like punishment. You may have cried. You may have questioned yourself. You may have wondered what you did wrong. But later, you may look back and realize, God was getting me out. Sometimes the door closes because you keep trying to hold it open. Sometimes God allows circumstances to make the separation so undeniable that you finally stop going back. And now the same person who once felt confident about losing you may be beginning to question everything. They may remember conversations and realize they were missing pieces. They may hear another story from the same person and notice the pattern. They may watch how that person treats someone else and suddenly recognize the behavior they once ignored. They may begin asking themselves, what if I got it wrong? And that question can be uncomfortable, because admitting that you were wrong about someone requires humility. It means admitting that you judged without knowing everything. It means acknowledging that you allowed outside voices to influence a decision that affected a relationship. It means accepting that you may have pushed away someone who genuinely cared about you. But chosen one, listen carefully. Their realization doesn't mean you have to run back. Their regret doesn't mean you have to reopen the door. Their apology doesn't automatically restore the trust that was broken. If they truly recognize their mistake, let their actions demonstrate it. Don't be moved by words alone. Don't let nostalgia make you forget what you endured. Don't allow the excitement of being wanted again to make you ignore why you had to leave in the first place. There is a difference between being missed and being valued. There is a difference between someone regretting your absence and someone becoming worthy of your presence. And perhaps the greatest lesson in all of this is that you have learned to stop needing everyone to understand you. That is growth. You don't need every person to agree with your story. You don't need every former friend to admit they were wrong. You don't need every person who judged you to come back and apologize. Your peace cannot depend on someone else's realization. If they eventually discover the truth, let them discover it. If they never do, God still knows the truth. That is enough. Chosen one, keep your heart clean. Keep your spirit strong. Keep becoming the person God is calling you to become. Don't allow the betrayal of yesterday to make you suspicious of every person you meet tomorrow. Don't let one person's manipulation convince you that nobody can be trusted. Take the lesson, but don't carry the wound forever. You were not created to live in the courtroom of other people's opinions. You were created to walk in purpose. And one day the people who listen to the wrong voices may finally understand what they lost. They may look back and realize that they were standing next to someone genuine while believing someone else's version of you. They may realize that the person they trusted to tell them the truth was actually protecting their own interests. They may regret the distance they created. They may wish they had asked you instead of believing rumors. But by then, something inside you will have changed. You won't be desperate for their validation anymore. You won't need them to finally say, "You were right." You will simply smile and thank God that you survived the season that once broke your heart. So if you are listening to me right now and someone has misunderstood you, hear me clearly. Don't panic. Don't chase. Don't beg. Don't become bitter. Let time reveal what arguments cannot. Let your character speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your life speak. The truth does not need your anxiety to survive. And when the wrong voices finally lose their power, you will realize that God wasn't abandoning you when they walked away. He was teaching you how to stand without their approval. He was teaching you how to trust Him when people misunderstood you. He was teaching you that your identity is not determined by the rumors people spread, but by the purpose He placed inside you. They listened to the wrong people, but you don't have to listen to the voice of rejection anymore. Listen to God, listen to truth, listen to wisdom. Keep moving forward, because the moment you stop trying to convince everyone who you are is the moment you become free to fully become who you were created to be. Chosen one, there comes a moment when you realize that someone's regret is not your responsibility. Yes, they may finally understand what they lost. They may finally recognize your loyalty, your patience, your kindness, your presence, and the value you brought into their life. They may replay old conversations in their mind and wonder why they listened to everyone except you. They may remember the moments when you stood beside them while others disappeared. They may remember how you encouraged them when nobody else believed in them. They may remember how you protected their name when others were attacking it. And now, after losing access to your presence, they may finally understand that what they had with you was rare. But chosen one, listen to me carefully. Their regret does not mean you are supposed to return to the same place where you were undervalued. Sometimes God allows someone to regret losing you without ever intending for you to go back to them. You have to understand the difference between being missed and being appreciated. Someone can miss your presence and still not be ready to honor you. Someone can regret losing you and still refuse to take responsibility for why they lost you. Someone can remember your love while still repeating the same behaviors that caused you to leave. That's why you cannot allow emotions alone to make decisions for your future. When someone suddenly comes back after realizing your value, don't immediately forget everything that happened before. Don't let one emotional conversation erase months of disappointment. Don't let a simple, "I miss you," make you forget all the times you felt invisible. Don't let their loneliness convince you that you are obligated to return. You are allowed to love someone from a distance. You are allowed to forgive without reopening the door. You are allowed to wish someone well without giving them the same access to your life. Chosen one. There was a reason God allowed that separation to happen. Maybe you didn't understand it when it happened. Maybe you thought losing them meant losing a part of yourself. Maybe you cried in private because you couldn't understand how someone you cared about could suddenly treat you like you meant nothing. Maybe you spent nights asking God why He allowed the relationship to fall apart. But what if the separation was not the end of your story? What if it was the beginning of your freedom? What if God was removing you from a cycle you were too emotionally attached to recognize? What if you were trying to hold on to someone that God was trying to release you from? Sometimes the blessing isn't in getting someone back. Sometimes the blessing is becoming strong enough to stop needing them back. And that's where your next level begins. Your next level begins when you stop measuring your worth by who stays and who leaves. Your next level begins when you stop asking, "Why didn't they choose me?" and start asking, "Why did I ever believe I needed their choice to know my value?" You are not less valuable because someone failed to recognize your worth. A diamond does not become worthless because someone mistakes it for a stone. Your value existed before they recognized it, and your value remains after they walk away. You don't need someone else's regret to validate your importance. God already knows what He placed inside you. Maybe they thought they could replace you easily. Maybe they believed someone else could give them everything you gave them. Maybe they thought the grass would be greener somewhere else. But eventually, people learn that not every connection can be duplicated. They may meet new people. They may enter new relationships. They may surround themselves with a different crowd. But they cannot recreate your exact heart, your exact loyalty, your exact energy, your exact way of caring. They may find someone different, but different doesn't necessarily mean better. And when they finally recognize that, regret can become very real. They may look back and realize that they didn't lose you because you weren't enough. They lost you because they failed to appreciate what they had. But don't let that realization become your obsession. Don't wake up every morning wondering whether they regret it yet. Don't check their life looking for evidence that they are unhappy without you. Don't measure your healing by how much they seem to be suffering. That keeps you emotionally connected to the very thing God is trying to free you from. Your victory is not watching them struggle. Your victory is reaching a place where their struggle no longer controls your emotions. Your victory is waking up peaceful. Your victory is smiling again. Your victory is building a life so fulfilling that you no longer need to know whether they are watching. And chosen one, if they ever come back, let them come back with changed behavior, not simply changed words. Anyone can say, "I made a mistake." Anyone can say, "I miss you." Anyone can promise that things will be different, but transformation is demonstrated. If they truly understand what they lost, They will understand why they lost it. They will take responsibility instead of blaming circumstances. They will acknowledge the pain they caused instead of telling you that you were too sensitive. They will respect your boundaries instead of trying to pressure you into forgetting the past. They will become consistent instead of appearing only when they feel lonely. That's how you know the difference between regret and genuine growth. And even then, chosen one, you still have the right to decide what happens next. Forgiveness does not require reconciliation. Compassion does not require access. Love does not require returning to the same situation. You can forgive someone and still choose a different path. You can appreciate the good memories and still accept that the chapter has ended. You can pray for someone and still protect your peace. Never let anyone convince you that having boundaries means you are bitter. Sometimes, boundaries are simply evidence that you finally learned what your heart should have been protected from all along. There is also something you need to remember when people regret losing you. Don't become arrogant because they came back. Don't turn their realization into an opportunity to punish them emotionally. Don't make them beg just so you can feel powerful. That's not healing. That's another form of attachment. Real healing is when you no longer need revenge. Real healing is when you can look at the situation and say, I understand what happened. I learned from it. I forgive what I can, and I am moving forward. You don't have to humiliate someone who once humiliated you. God doesn't need you to become cruel to prove that you were hurt. Let them have their realization. Let them sit with the consequences of their choices. Let them understand what your absence feels like. But you keep walking, keep growing, keep praying, keep building, keep becoming stronger. Because while they are looking backward, God is calling you forward. There are opportunities you haven't seen yet. There are people you haven't met yet. There are doors you haven't walked through yet. There are levels of peace you haven't experienced yet. There are dreams inside you that still need your attention. You cannot spend your entire future staring at the people who walked away from your past. Maybe the reason God allowed them to lose you was because He knew you would never discover your full strength while you were constantly trying to earn their approval. Maybe you had become too comfortable being misunderstood. Maybe you were constantly explaining yourself, defending yourself, proving your loyalty, and trying to keep peace with people who were committed to creating chaos. God may have been saying, enough. Enough chasing, enough explaining, enough begging people to see what is obvious, enough accepting crumbs when you were created to walk in abundance, enough shrinking yourself to fit into places that could never honor who you were becoming. Chosen one, you are entering a season where your energy must be invested differently. Don't invest your best energy into proving yourself to people who already made their decision. Invest it into your purpose. Invest it into your growth. Invest it into your relationship with God. Invest it into becoming emotionally stronger, spiritually wiser, and mentally clearer. Build the life you once thought you needed someone else to help you build. Discover who you are when nobody is applauding. Learn to enjoy your own company. Learn to trust your instincts. Learn to recognize red flags before they become heartbreak. Learn that peace is not boring, it is precious.